Hey, deserving listeners, The Ultimatum, Netflix. Let's watch.
We just went through a fucking week of dating to get to the person we want to connect with the most, and then this shit happens?
What the f is happening? Hunter and Nate, out of everybody. I dated them more than I dated you. I've dated them all week. I spent hours with these fucking dudes. Then I poured my heart out to Hunter. I look like a fucking idiot.
Right. So we can use this. None of us will be on this show in all likelihood, but the more common experience that this is emulative of is when, say, you go on a Tinder date with someone and, date 3 or whatever, they're like, oh, I met someone else, or, oh, I'm not really feeling it with you, or whatever, or they ghost you, that you will see behavior like this, right? You'll be like, you're just going to waste my time, and we had like 6 dates and you just ghost me, or we had 6 dates and it's like, you're not feeling it? I mean, what kind of crap is this? You'll hear people say that, not everyone. And what's happening in all likelihood is that the individual feels hurt and rejected and alone and humiliated, which is natural, and doesn't have the differentiation to be able to fully face that, and doesn't have the self-esteem or the self-worth to allow themselves to feel those feelings and to express them, and is trying to come across like they're not hurt, because we frame hurt as weakness, which is ridiculous. So they are attacking them and saying, and especially what April is saying, she's saying, I talked to Hunter and Nate more than any of them, and they do this. It's like, do what? Fall in love? Propose to their long-lasting relationship? They don't owe you anything. And this, of course, taken to an extreme, can result in, assault, sexual assault on dates. This guy, I don't know what words are going to be flagged on YouTube, but the phrase. And this entitlement, of course, that's not what they're referring to, but it's in that direction where you feel rejected and you feel lonely, and then this way of coping with that is to attack and maybe even kind of control, which we saw bits of. Now, Nate and Hunter and Lauren and Alexis are able to fend off that, hostility, but it was there. Let's see what else they say.
Oh my God. Like, that's ballsy of Nate to fucking step back and be like, bring your attention to me. You just robbed her of a fucking situation that you come here for. Don't strip my conversation from her now. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's just so interesting, because it's obvious it's been a while since that happened. So you would think in the moment, you would think it would be kind of shocking, but you'd think by now you would have time to reevaluate and say like, oh, well, I mean, they fell in love. They're getting married. So yeah, I lost out, but they don't owe me anything. and you would think, you would say, well, I didn't realize that Lauren was that into Nate. It seemed like maybe there was a little bit of wiggle room there that I was counting on, and it appears there wasn't as much wiggle room as I thought there was. And so it's good that I know that now, because I would have been wasting my time. Instead of, I don't know, seeing it, or just like, well, good for them. I lost out. Sucks to be me, or something along those lines. Instead of that, it's there's something wrong with you. You broke the rules. How dare you? That kind of attitude, which is very common, I'll say. What they're exhibiting, I think a lot of viewers might look at this and go like, what's wrong with you? But I would almost say it's near universal that when people get rejected in dating relationships, or really, however long in a relationship, but I'll keep it to just, short-term dating relationships, they will almost always exhibit at least some of this unreasonable hostility.
I was like, you better brag about this, because I do not do this at home.
So, some people talk a lot, and some people don't like it when some people talk a lot. And at least that seems to be what's happening. It seemed to be what we were seeing previous to this moment anyway. Why do people do that? Well, some people just come from families where they talk a lot. Some people come from families or cultures where it's expected that if you're going to talk and you want to talk, you have to chime in, meaning that, like I with certain friends, that's how we talk to each other. We don't pause to wait for the other person to say anything. We just sort of interrupt each other, and we're not insulted if the other person interrupts us. And so there's like just a pressure of talking. And whereas other friends of mine, I know that I need to pause and actually ask questions so that they will say things. So some people just have that orientation where they talk and they figure if someone else wants to say anything that they're going to interrupt. Some people are used to having a lot of attention on them and aren't used to listening to other people. Some people want to take up a lot of space because they like to hear themselves talk. Some people are hyperactive and they have a lot of things to say and they want to get off their chest. Some people are self-centered and don't really care about what other people think, or don't care enough to pause and care much more about expressing their feelings or even exploring their own thoughts. So I don't know. And also we're only seeing little snippets, so we don't really know what's going on.
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
It's going to come off offensive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to know you and Jake as a couple.
Yeah.
I think you just talk over him.
Yeah.
Like, you talk. You're a talker. You run 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Madlyn's giving feedback and saying, you talk too much. And April is saying, I know, I do that. So, yeah, it's good that she can admit that.
But, like, slow your shit down and listen to him. You're hot. And, like, you love this man. Yeah.
And I guess that gives some context to Jake's complaint of her, that it was all about her and all about her wants, and you never asked me about my experience, you never asked me what I want. So that would all fit. It appears that she's flexible enough to hear this, because if you were truly pathologically in this direction, you wouldn't respond well to this kind of confrontation. So at least on the surface, she appears to be able to, she has the ego strength to be able to handle this kind of feedback.
Like, you're realizing
did
these
listen to
things
him.
and you want to,
Yeah.
I can tell you're in love with him. You want to do these things for him. Like, put yourself on a 30-second timer and be like, all right, I'm going to shut the up for 20 seconds. I want to hate you, but I can't, because I see love and passion in you, and I know you want to be your best.
And that's why I'm excited to get through these 3 weeks. Things need to fucking change, but like, we're gonna figure our shit out. We were so serious.
Piggybacking on feedback that she talks too much, then she just launches into talking too much again and not reading the room while people are giving lots of indications, this kind of thing, that you're talking too much. So it shows that she either wasn't really hearing it or understands it, but there's such a compulsion to take up space that it's just like, okay, moving forward. So that shows that it's perhaps more ingrained in her personality than is easily modifiable in the moment for her.
To me.
That's my journey, and I
Okay.
know that nobody will understand it, and it's okay. And it's been 2 years, and like, my body just can't get pregnant. So like, yeah, and that fucking sucks as a woman to know that your body is not working. Be told that I have cysts in my ovaries, that I'm not producing.
Her feelings are, I think, valid, April. She's talking about having difficulty getting pregnant. She's talking to the woman who is dating her and making out with her boyfriend, the person she wants to marry. So she's sad. She's, having some expression of emotion. But again, reading the room, you would think having someone explicitly tell you that you talk too much to take up that much space, I think says something about her personality. Why would people be that way? Well, there's a lot of different roads to there, but a common one is when we are young and we're being casually neglected or overtly neglected, but often it's casual neglect, meaning that the parents are working a lot, or you have a depressed parent, or maybe your parents have health issues that pull them away from you in terms of attunement. And so as a child, you run into this chronic feeling of neglect and of not being paid attention to, and you aren't getting your needs met along those lines. You know, if you've ever had young kids, they have a lot of needs for you to pay attention to them. And there's a reason for that, because there's all these things that they are trying to work out. There's all these things they're trying to learn. They have a lot of needs. They have a lot of moods. They don't know how to regulate their own emotions. They can't feed themselves, and so they need you. And so there's a lot of need, and they're also trying to figure out, am I worth it? What do you think of this drawing? And there's a constant renewing of self-esteem every day that needs to be edified every day over time. And so there's this tremendous needs, and when you're not getting that, either because you're overtly being neglected or subtly being neglected, you end up having this complex around not mattering, that you don't matter. And so there's various different ways to deal with that. One is to surrender to it and to say, well, I don't matter, so I'm going to treat myself like crap, and I'm going to be in relationships where other people treat me like crap and neglect me, and because that's just how the world is, and I might as well just lean into it and not fight it. There's also avoidance, where we would just avoid relationships altogether, and there's other kinds of things we could avoid to avoid that. But then there's overcompensating, which is, I'm going to take up a tremendous amount of room and you will pay attention to me. And this happens when you're 3 and 7 years old, where you're like, well, I could give into this treatment, or I could overcompensate by just forcing these people who should be paying attention to me anyway by talking, and eventually they'll pay attention to me. They're only paying attention to me like 10% of the time, and if I act normally, I get a tiny amount of attention. But if I'm grabbing at attention a lot, then I'll get a lot more attention over the day, and I'll get like half the attention that I really deserve and want as a child. Well, that locks in this behavioral pattern of taking up a lot of space, because you're frantically trying to get someone to notice you and to validate you, and you're also treating other people the way you were treated. Ironically, you're being treated like you don't matter, and when you talk over other people, everyone else ends up feeling like the way you did when you were a kid, because they're just like, I'm being ignored and I don't matter, and this other person is just taking up all this space. And so you're both trying to compensate as an adult for that by taking up space, and you're making everyone else feel like the way you did when you were a child.
Sorry, and I really am sorry that this is, happening between you and Jake, and you're going through this in general.
I just feel so fucking helpless.
I think you'll be a great mom. I think just seeing the way that you love Jake, I think you're capable of really loving a kid and being there for them. And I think it'll be great no matter what you do. And I do.
And some of y'all might have friends, some of y'all might be like this, but if you have friends like this or a coworker like this, you know that person that whenever you're in a group, say, 3 or more people, it always ends up becoming about them. And of course, the internet will start using words like narcissism, and we could talk about that, but we don't have to go that far. We could just talk about what I was talking about. And it's weird how effective they are at drawing attention to themselves and taking up space. And then, of course, you can have the opposite sort of person that you almost forget that they were in the room, and then people in between.
Madlyn has done a great job of pissing me off tonight. I'm not into telling people what to do with their lives, but when you're going home to my man, I'm a little concerned.
I think that Shanique is upset about it.
I don't care.
And that's okay, that's gonna happen.
It needs to affect her. Randall did have every intention of kissing me.
Okay, so I haven't been showing all the clips, but Madlyn appears intoxicated, I don't know, and she's talking loudly and extensively about Shanique's boyfriend, Randall, that Madlyn is with, and how Randall kissed her off camera. And they seem to be really focusing on the fact that it was off camera. I think because you're like, well, on camera you're supposed to play ball, but but if you're doing something behind the scenes, then that means you actually want to do it, which I find to be an interesting detail, right? So she says, yeah, he kissed me off camera and he wanted to kiss me, and they're also talking about boners, a lot of boner talk. I think Shanique was actually saying that Zay had a boner, and now Madlyn is saying that Randall had a boner. And okay, so fine, but I think, Shanique is upset here. Shanique knows that Madlyn and Randall are dating, obviously, but doesn't want it sort of shoved in her face. I don't know why Madlyn feels compelled to say it, but then as time went on, I was thinking, well, maybe Madlyn feels like, as woman to woman, she wants to tell Shanique, look, Randall is coming at me, and I feel like you should know this, as friend to friend, and you need to protect yourself because he's not not coming at me. So maybe that's why. But when you're intoxicated and you are in a weird situation like this show, I don't know, maybe she'll regret doing this in the morning.
Okay, he did. We all came here for answers.
But then Ray tells Madlyn that Shanique is a little upset and walked away from the camera because Madlyn is shoving it in her face, and Madlyn quickly says, I don't care. Again, is that because she literally just doesn't care about other people's feelings, or is she saying, look, you need to know the truth? I can't imagine why you would feel like you would need to shove that in someone's face, right? And I'm trying to understand. We haven't heard a lot from Madlyn, so I have a hard time hypothesizing or really even understanding why she's creating this problem.
And Randall kissed me off camera. I think it scares the shit out of her. But at the same time, like, if it's not her, it's not her. The reality of the situation.
Right. So I think another part of it is that I think Madlyn is actually falling for Randall, at least temporarily. She was saying that Randall is everything that she's ever looked for in someone, and I think she's trying to tell Shanique that to back off and it's over and he's with me now. And that would, I guess, if you're really into someone, which this is the show, it's designed to experiment with that, then the impulse would be there. But so early in the system to do that and to aggravate someone that way, it'd be one thing for Madlyn to just say, look, I just want Shanique, woman to woman, I'm really connecting with Randall and I feel like he's connecting with me. I know this might be shocking to you because I know you really want to be with him, but I feel like I should tell you that, and I have an impulse to kind of like, I just want to run off with him off the show right now. At least that's how it feels, but there's a way to communicate it without being callous towards someone else.
Is upsetting.
I'm gonna need somebody to like fucking supervise Madlyn tonight. Somebody watch her tonight, please.
I think what she's saying is she's intoxicated and I'm gonna leave her alone, so I need someone else to kind of make sure that she is safe tonight. I think that's what she's saying. Or she's saying someone's gotta make sure that I don't hurt her. I don't think that's what she's saying though.
I'm done. I'm ready to go make out with Randall off camera.
Take these off me.
Now, when people are intoxicated, they will exhibit immature or unwise or behavior that they wouldn't do otherwise. But I think it does say something about Madlyn's character or maturity or something. And these people are young. I mean, when I was 18 and I looked at people in their 20s, they looked ancient to me. But now that I'm 51 years old, I look back at myself when I was in my 20s and think, my goodness, we tend to, in our society, believe when you turn 18, you're done maturing, which of course doesn't make any sense. So I think Madlyn is either regressing or this is a part of her personality. We haven't seen much of that up until this point, so let's assume and hold out for that she's intoxicated and will regret and cringe at herself the next morning. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.